We're going to be exploring how we can use concat in order to join arrays, merge them together, add in more values into the array. Also how the array length property works, how we can set empty values in the array using the length, and how we can remove values and clear out the array entirely, setting its length value. So all of that is coming up in this lesson. Go ahead and create a new JS file, and this is where we're going to be trying out the arrays. And then within the JS file, let's create an array and add some values into the array. So I'm going to set the values of the array. So 1, 2, 3, 4, so just 4 different numbers in there. Let's log out into the console, the array object, and that gives us the array, and the length of this array is going to be 4. So if we set the different length value for the array, so we know that this is a property that is used for arrays, and we can also set that length property. So if we set that length property to 10, the result is going to be that the array itself is going to have a bunch of empty slots. So it's going to have now a length of 10, and all of these are going to be empty. If we set the length of the array, and we can always update the length of the array. So if we set the length of the array to 1, what do you think the contents of the array are going to be? And when we save it, if we have array length of 1, that means that we only contain one item in the array. So all of the other items now have been removed, and that array only just has the one item into the array. And that's how you can use the array length. And if you want to clear out or empty out the array, you can set the array length to 0, and that's going to just empty out, clear out all of the items that are currently within the array. Let's create a second array, add in some values into that array. So we know that when we have an array and we assign an array to another array, so if we were to do array 2 is equal to array 1, if we try to use the array 2, so log out, do a console log of the array 2, that length is also going to be 0, so that's going to be empty because it's still linking to that same object information. So the array 1 variable, array 2 variable, both are linking to the data that's contained within the array, and if you make any changes to one, it's going to update on the other one. So we can duplicate arrays, and we can also join arrays together. So if we have an array and we want to join from one array into the other array and return back results, so now we're going to create array number 3. We'll take the result of array number 1, or just call it array, and then concatenate the results of ARR1, and I'll just add this in here at the top so that we can use it. So for array number 3, the results are going to be that we've joined the two arrays together, and at the point when we joined it, we actually created a third array, which is array 3. So it's no longer tied to what happened in the original ARR array or within the ARR1 array. Those values are still all present as we did the concatenate. So that creates a new instance of the array, creates an entirely independent array of the other array objects. You can also concatenate and join multiple values into the arrays. So let's see how that looks, where we've got the array 4. So creating another array. And if we want to just add values into an existing array, take the existing array and then concat and create just an array without any variables to it. So that can add another array into an existing array. I'll do a console clear to clear up the console log. So we've got quite a bit of stuff within the console. So only those last two statements are going to be working. So in this point where we've got the array 4, we've concatenated another array of values to that existing array. So that's given us a sequence of numbers from 1 to 9. So you can also add and concatenate as many arrays together as you want. You can also do the same arrays. So if I wanted to take the array 1, or let's take the array 1 this time, and we want to join together the array, and then we also had some values that we want to add. So the result here would be that we're concatenating all of that all of those items into one new array. So now this one is going to be one massive array with 19 items contained within it. So that's how we can concatenate. If we want to clone an array, so let's say for instance if we want to clone the original ARR array and set its clone as ARR6, we want to have the values the same, but we want to have them work independently. Then we can just select the array that we want to clone and do a concat, and then just leave the argument blank. So that will make a copy of that array within the ARR6 array, and that will preserve the initial values that we had within the array before we updated it and removed the length from the array. So before we removed the values that were contained within the array. So in order to join values into the array, they need to be in an array format. So if you had an array, and if you do a concat, and if these are going to be string values, what happens is that this isn't going to join it into an array. It's going to create a new array, but those items are going to be contained as separate string values within the array. So we've got a value of 4 and 5 because we've comma separated the values. So using the index value of 4 and 5, now we've got the values of 1 and 2. And if we have an array that has these values that we're joining in, and let's see what we've got for the value of array 8. So that will do it the same way, where it's going to join each one of those items that's comma separated and add them, appending them to the end of the array as we're joining them together. So either way will work, but it is best to use the array format if you are adding new items into the array. So you can use it within that string type format. And you can't use an actual string. So if you do have a comma separated string, this is just going to add as one item into the array. So that way is going to just add the 5th item into the array, which is going to be that string of 1 and 2. So it's not going to separate it out, and they're not going to get separate index values. You can, however, if you do have a string value, and I'll set the string to 1 and 2, and if we want to convert that string into an array, we can use an array method in order to do that. So we've got our string, and then we want to use split. So we're splitting it via the comma. And now if we console log out what we have for array 10, and we need to have that near the end. So that gives us an array of those string values. And this way you can use the split in order to create a new array from a string if you have a string array. So we're going to use the concat and then the string split method as the argument for the array. And what this will do is, I'm actually going to update this to 5 and 6 so that we get the numbers in sequence. And now when we output the result for array 11, that will now have the split values for 5 and 6, and they are split as string values whenever you're using the string method. So you're still splitting it as a string, and so these are still going to be string values because they're originating from a string. But we can see that we've got the numbers of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 because we were able to do it within one statement as we joined in the split within the concatenate. So that's how you can clone an array and make duplicates of an array, and also join and merge different array values together.